News right now, giving you an update of the status quo. So the question that you might be asking is, what is the Global Sumud Flotilla? Just a little bit of background. It's a civil society-led international maritime initiative. And the entire idea is to attempt to deliver humanitarian aid, that is food, water, to those who have been impacted by the Gaza-Israeli situation. Now, Sumud is an Arabic word meaning perseverance, and it reflects the Palestinian tradition of resilience. What message would you like to give to the people of Gaza? If you had the opportunity to do so and they'd be reading your messages, what would you like to say to the people of Gaza? What would you like to say to those who've been detained by Israel's military and also those who are en route? Do send your comments to Channel Africa 1 on X and Instagram, at Channel Africa on Facebook. And you can also send us your comments and voice notes to our WhatsApp number, which is +27 63 406 9126. That's +27 63 406 9126. What message would you like to send to the people of Gaza, to those who've been detained by Israel's military, and those who are en route? That is our Africa Update Asks. So remember to use that hashtag Africa Update Asks. It's exactly 8 minutes after 12.
Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Now, Thailand's new head of mission to South Africa, Ambassador Ekapol Pulpipat, says his country is eager to strengthen bilateral ties with Pretoria, particularly in the areas of trade, investment, as well as tourism. Speaking to Channel Africa during a credentials ceremony at the Sefako Makhatu Presidential Guest House in Pretoria, Pulpipat described South Africa as a key player on the continent, as well as a vital gateway for deeper engagement between ASEAN, BRICS and Africa. He also pledged support for South Africa's G20 presidency.
This is the first time I'd come to South Africa, not only South Africa, for Africa as a continent. And Thailand's looking forward to strengthening bilateral relations with South Africa, which is the key player in not only regional but global relations and issues. On bilateral relations, Thailand, is a bit far. It's not the matter of distance, but we would like to strengthen bilateral trade and investment. Actually, we have Thai companies who are interested in investing in South Africa and want to exchange of know-how and technology with South African counterpart. In terms of tourism, it was quite some time that we had a direct flight from Thailand to Cape Town. I think that we have to resume this flight connection. Thailand is a potential for not only for scenery or food, but actually for the medical tourism. Besides this, Thailand is now the observer of BRICS, and we would like to engage with South Africans and as a member of BRICS. And again, I mentioned to the president just now that Thailand reaffirmed our commitment to cooperate closely with South Africa to enhance peace, prosperity, and sustainable development and growth.
That was Thailand's new head of mission to South Africa, Ambassador Ekapol Pulpipat, taking us to 11 minutes after 12.
Tune in and turn up the volume. This is Channel Africa.
Now, the last remaining boat of the Global Sumud Flotilla has been intercepted by the Israeli military. The boat initially had engine issues and was lagging behind the main group. In a live stream video, it showed Israeli forces boarding the vessel, telling the crew not to move and to lift up their hands. Since Wednesday, Israel has stopped 44 boats as part of the flotilla from carrying aid to Gaza and detained around 500 activists from dozens of countries. Now, organizers say that they will not stop calling for Palestine to be free. World leaders have condemned the seizures, with Colombian President Gustavo Petro expelling Israeli diplomats as well as cancelling his country's free trade agreement. Germany, France, the United Kingdom, as well as other European countries have also called on Israel to respect the rights of the detainees. Joining us this afternoon is Jared Sachs, a member of South African Jews for a Free Palestine, who is currently in Tunis. Jared, good to be talking to you. A very good afternoon to you. So we understand, Jared, that some of the detainees have started an open-ended hunger strike. What do you know about this?
Hi, good morning to everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me. So there have been 6 South Africans detained and a few hundred people from other parts of the world, and many of the participants have decided to engage in a hunger strike and ensure that they do not take food from the Israeli forces. The Israeli forces have used the fact that they've been fed in previous flotillas as propaganda against them, and so they've decided not to take food to ensure that the propaganda isn't used against them, but also as a form of protest against their detainment and against the starvation of people in Gaza.
And what do we know about their current welfare, their status quo as it stands?
It's hard to tell. We actually don't know much right now. Once they were intercepted, everything went dark. They removed the tracking devices and the video cameras in the boats, and we think that they put them on a much larger vessel and transported them to the port of Ashdod. But they have not allowed lawyers to visit them yet, and we are demanding that they allow our legal team to visit them in Israel. In the meantime, the Israeli government has released a video of the minister Itamar Ben-Gvir taunting the detainees in a large room with a lot of people in it, calling them terrorists and other awful things, even though they're just humanitarians.
There have been calls, Jared, for protests to be taking place around the world. Is that happening?
Yes, there's protests all over the world. Even immediately when people were being hijacked at sea, there were protests in Italy and in parts of Europe. And then there have been protests in the US. There's been protests here in South Africa as well. In fact, there's a protest going on right now, I think, by Parliament. And I'll be heading there after this interview.
Now, there is another flotilla, we understand, that is on its way. Could you tell us about this flotilla?
So the other flotilla is called the Thousand Madeleines, and it's a group of 9 boats, now joined also by the Conscience, a very, very large boat, which had previously tried to sail earlier this year, but was sabotaged by drones coming from Israel. And so now this group of 10 boats are on their way to Gaza. I think they're somewhere around Crete, so they're about 3 or 4 days away from Gaza.
Jared, thank you so much for that update. We certainly will be keeping abreast of developments on that front. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Jared. That's Jared Sachs. He's a member of the South African Jews for a Free Palestine. So we continue with this particular story and the latest there. And to take this further, we joined on the line by Naeem Jena, Executive Director of the Afro-Middle East Center. Good to have you with us, Naeem. Welcome.
Thank you, Tam.
So a question that many are asking is why countries are not doing more to put pressure on Israel. We've just heard from Jared Sachs that yes, there are protests that are taking place in different parts of the world, but questions are being asked that why is it that what Colombia's president is doing is not being emulated by others?
Yeah, I mean it's a good question. I'm not sure that I'm the right person to answer it, but because I'm not in any government. But I think part of the thing is that Israel is able to act with the kind of impunity it does in 2 years of a genocide, because it has the protection of this global superpower of the United States. And even with countries, for example, in Europe, we're finding now, after or into the Trump presidency, that there's this great disquiet and concern among European countries that they don't want to do anything that would get them on the wrong side of the new Trump administration. And so they go along with whatever Trump says or remain silent, when previously some of them might have objected to some of those things. And the Palestinians are paying the price. And then you have, of course, countries which have taken a strong position, but are not willing to go beyond that. And, South Africa, for example, I mean, the very admirable position it took with the ICJ case, which is still, of course, being investigated by the ICJ, the genocide case. But that's as far as South Africa will go. And if you want things to change, then it requires more pressure. South Africa, for example, is the largest supplier of coal now to Israel, coal that is used, for example, to power its AI systems, its AI weapon systems, which are involved in the genocide in Gaza. So there's a number of these kinds of factors, but the United States is in many ways the kind of linchpin around why governments of the world are not doing more.
We're speaking about the protests that have been erupting in different parts of the world. Are these enough? And would world leaders, sit up and start to listen? Or are there economic, trade and investment, financial considerations, power dynamics going to trump the voice of those who are on the streets protesting?
I think it's a mixture. So on the one hand, are they enough? No, because they haven't fully achieved what they're supposed to, which is increasing the pressure on their own governments to pressure Israel. But there are some signs that these protests and actions are having some effect. Apart from the kind of sense of fear of the Israeli lobby internationally about what these things might do, which is an indication in itself. But, for example, this kind of move by certain European governments to recognize a Palestinian state, I don't think that really means much. But that would not have happened if these governments didn't feel that the pressure in their own countries was so substantial that they needed to do something. Even if the something wasn't substantive enough, they needed to do something. So I think that the protests are having some effect, but clearly much more is required in order to change things. I think one of the big places to look at is the United States. I mean, we're finding now that, recent polls, 60% of Americans support the Palestinians rather than Israel, which is a big change over the past few years. Among young people, more than 50% say that they support Hamas, meaning the resistance in Gaza, not Israel. So I think that kind of protest in the United States can also have a big impact. And then we're finding, also this other factor, the kind of split in Trump's MAGA movement, where a big part of them are saying that Israel is not in the U.S. interest, and so things have to change. And I think that these are all things that need to be watched out for. But the real impact on Israel will be two things. One is a stronger American position against Israel, and secondly, what you said earlier on, stronger economic actions by states, by companies. And that's why I'm saying, I made the point about the coal. If South Africa stopped its coal, if other countries stopped trading with Israel, the Israeli economy is in the doldrums at the moment, these kinds of things will have a serious impact and force it to end its genocide.
And talk to us about the trade deal, the Hamas trade deal.
The what deal?
The trade deal with Hamas.
What trade deal with Hamas? You mean the Trump proposal?
Yes, the Trump proposal. Yes.
The Trump peace proposal, called peace proposal. Trump came out with this 20-point plan, which he presented to a number of Arab and Muslim heads of state, and they seemingly accepted that. Now it has come out that the document that he gave to them, which they accepted, and which Palestinians are generally very angry about, but the document that was then came out of the meeting that Trump had with Netanyahu was changed. And so some of those Arabs and Muslims who were at that initial meeting are saying that that's not what they had agreed to. Hamas is now looking, they say, they're looking at that proposal and consulting with the other Palestinian groups. So there's, Islamic Jihad, the Popular Front, Democratic Front, etc. Before they make a decision, there's some tentative suggestion that they might accept the framework of the proposal, but with certain details wanting to be emphasized or changed or clarified. So, for example, Trump initially said that his proposal included Israelis withdrawing from Gaza. Netanyahu, after he met Trump, said no, they agreed that the Israeli army would be able to stay in Gaza. Clearly, for the Palestinians in Gaza, that's a big sticking point, that they want clarity. They're not going to accept any deal where the Israeli army remains for as long as it wants in Gaza. So there are these sticking points, and it doesn't seem like Israel is going to accept that. I mean, the Israelis basically want a situation where the resistance in Gaza capitulates completely, disarms. So what Israel has not been able to achieve in 2 years, which is destroying the resistance in Gaza, it wants the resistance to do voluntarily. And that's not going to fly with the Palestinians. So I think that while the talk now is that there's the Hamas people are looking at the proposal, but also the Israelis haven't really made a decision. Netanyahu might say this or that, but his government hasn't made a decision, and the parliament hasn't made a decision, and there's a good chance that they will reject it, and so we'll be back to a stalemate.
All right. Thank you so much, Naeem Jinnah, for that update this afternoon as we continue watching the developments there regarding the flotilla and more specifically the dynamics between Israel and Palestine. We thank you very much, Naeem Jinnah. He's Executive Director of the Afro-Middle East Center.
The rhythm of Africa, the pulse of the continent. This is Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It's gone exactly 25 minutes after 12 p.m. Central African time. Now, several newly appointed heads of missions to South Africa have expressed their strong support for the country's G20 presidency. This came during a ceremony at the Sefako Makgatho Presidential Guest House in Pretoria on Thursday, where President Cyril Ramaphosa received letters of credence from about 18 ambassadors representing various nations. South Africa is set to host the G20 summit under the theme Solidarity, Equality and Sustainability. Channel Africa's Michael Mbewe reports.
In a show of solidarity with South Africa's G20 presidency, several heads of mission accredited to Pretoria have pledged their unwavering support for the country's leadership role. The diplomats were speaking at a credentials ceremony at the Sefako Makgatho Guest House, where President Cyril Ramaphosa officially welcomed 18 newly appointed ambassadors from across the globe. During the ceremony, the envoys emphasized the importance of international cooperation in tackling shared challenges such as global inequality, climate change, and sustainable development. They commended South Africa's chosen G20 theme of solidarity, equality, and sustainability, noting that it captures the urgent priorities facing the international community. Zambia's High Commissioner Designate to South Africa is Grace Mutembu.
I further wish to extend our warmest congratulations to the Republic of South Africa for assuming the presidency of the G20 for the period beginning December 2024 to November 2025. Your Excellency, this role is a moment of significant pride, not only for South Africa, but the entire African continent.
Mutembu says the theme chosen by South Africa resonates with the pressing challenges the world over.
We are inspired by the theme you carefully chose for your presidency being solidarity, equality, and sustainability, as it resonates deeply with the urgent need for cooperative, inclusive, and forward-looking solutions to the world's most pressing challenges. I wish you a successful G20 Heads of State Summit that South Africa will be hosting in November.
Sudanese Head of Missions Designate Osman Adam Mohamed said South Africa's G20 is Africa's pride.
It's actually a source of pride for all of us as Africans to see South Africa at the helm of the G20. Sudan enjoys a long-standing historical and cordial relation with South Africa. Both countries stood together during the struggle against colonialism and apartheid. In his historic visit to Sudan in 1962, Nelson Mandela was accorded the statesman reception by the then President Ibrahim Aboud. This reflects the common values we share as nations against injustice and aggression.
Ambassador-designate Harold Buntu Safa, representing Sierra Leone, is seeking to strengthen cooperation with South Africa while praising South Africa's G20 presidency.
As we seek to further deepen our ties of friendship and cooperation, it is important that we leverage our respective comparative advantages in order to unlock new opportunities that will enhance the prosperity and well-being of our people. Your Excellency, sir, before I conclude my statement, please allow me to congratulate Your Excellency and South Africa for G20. This is a testament to the stature of this country, and it is a pride for the entire continent.
Meanwhile, the Algerian ambassador-designate Ali Ashwi praised South Africa for making the G20 an African priority. Ashwi has pledged to strengthen relations with South Africa during his tenure.
Your Wise Excellency, to put forward the Africa's priorities in the agenda of G20 reflect your commitment to Africa. I would like to highlight in this, to express the Algeria support for the South Africa presidency and leading of G20, which will be held for the first time in our continent, Mother Africa. Excellency, I am deeply honored to be Ambassador of Algeria in South Africa, and under your command and the command of His Excellency Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, I am sure that I will do my best to enhance the level of the relation between our two countries with the help and support of our South African friends and colleagues.
Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa News, Johannesburg.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
It has gone exactly 12:30 p.m. Central African Time. Let's head over now to the news desk for the latest in news, sport and business.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Tammy. Malawi's outgoing president, Lazarus Chakwera, will physically hand over power to his successor, Peter Mutharika, tomorrow, in a move that political and human rights activists describe as maturity. Madagascar's President Andry Rajoelina is expected to make a live address on his Facebook today as protests continue to unfold. And Africa for Palestine in South Africa has called for the complete isolation of Israel through embargoes and sanctions. Channel Africa News, I am Oneli Tsinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the Sports Desk. I am Mosibudi Makura with the latest sports news at the Sawa. So we'll start with live cricket action at the moment and the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup. England earlier on winning the toss and they choosing to bowl first against South Africa in their first match of this year's competition out at the Kawati Stadium in India. South Africa having just won 2 of their last 8 matches against England. The pitch, by the way, is looking fresh and one looks dry and cracked, which prompted the England side to elect 3 front spinners, while Laura Wolfart, the captain of the South African side, has the luxury of 3 spin options as well as 4 seamers. But as things stand at the moment, things are not looking good for Team South Africa. 54 now for the loss of 7 wickets after 15 overs. Sinalo Jafta currently at the crease for South Africa with 19 runs of 28 balls, while Masabata Class is also providing a supporting role for Sinalo Jafta on 1 run from 7 balls. So at the moment, England in the driving seat of this match at the ICC Women's Cricket World Cup, co-hosted of course by India as well as Sri Lanka. We'll stay with cricket news. Zimbabwe's opening batter Brian Bennett as well as Namibian all-rounder JJ Smith played key roles yesterday in their countries booked their spots at the T20 World Cup with victories in the African qualifying event. A quick fire 51 from Bennett in Harare set up Zimbabwe for a 7-wicket victory over Kenya with about 5 overs to spare. Earlier, Smith compiled an unbeaten 61 and took 3 wickets in a 63-run victory against Tanzania. The qualifications of Zimbabwe as well as Namibia raised to 17 the number of nations who have booked their places at the tournament for next year, set to take place between the 7th of February and the 8th of March, with defending champions India as well as Sri Lanka also co-hosting the event. The 3 remaining slots will be decided through the Asia as well as the East Asia Pacific qualifiers in Oman, which will start next week. On to football news now. FIFA President Gianni Infantino says World Football Governing Body cannot solve geopolitical problems as pressure mounts on the sports authorities to sanction Israel. So United Nations Commission of Inquiry concluded just last month that Israel has committed genocide against Palestinians in the Gaza. Now, Israel's participation in football has not been included as a formal item on the agenda of a FIFA Council held on Thursday. However, Infantino touched on the subject in his opening remarks for the session at FIFA headquarters in Zurich in Switzerland. So Infantino later said that he had met with Palestinian Football Association President Jabral Jajoub on Thursday. Now, Israel's national team are currently participating in European qualifiers for next year's FIFA Men's World Cup, with Israeli club Maccabi Tel Aviv also playing in the Europa League. Back home now, Bafana head coach Hugo Bruce has accepted full responsibility for the Teboho Mokoena saga. But the 73-year-old Belgian mentor says he's still confident South Africa can still qualify for next year's FIFA World Cup despite the FIFA sanction that saw Bafana lose top spot in Group C to Benin. So FIFA sanctioned the national team this week for fielding the suspended Mokoena in a qualifier against Lesotho in March of this year. The sanction could still have dire consequences for Bafana. As a result, everyone is baying for the team's manager's blood. But Bruce says the matter should now be put to rest.
People have to stop now also to look for who's responsible for that. We all know that we made a mistake. But first, between the first yellow card of Teboho and the match of Lesotho, there were 16 months. And in the meanwhile, during those periods, you played AFCON, you played qualifiers for a new AFCON, and you played World Cup. So it may not happen, but it's understandable. Who is responsible? And I see already that the minister also wants to investigate who is responsible. Well, it's clear. I'm responsible. I'm the coach.
All right, so despite the fact that Bafana now trail Benin by virtue of goal difference, Bruce is still confident of qualifying for next year's World Cup co-hosted by the USA, Mexico as well as Canada. Bafana have matches against Zimbabwe as well as Rwanda remaining both on home soil.
Just focus on the 2 games that are coming now and support us like you did already the ones before, and we will see where we will arrive. But we will do everything for 100% to win those 2 games. And again, for me, it's an extra motivation. And I will try to put that in my players' head also, that in those 2 games they will never saw a team of South Africa that we'll see now in those 2 games.
Right, so that's a wrap from the sports desk at the Sawa. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour for Channel Africa Sport. I am Mosibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Je, una jambo lolote akilini mwako? Je, una shauku kuhusu masuala muhimu? Na je, una maoni ambayo unataka yasikike? Kweli, hili jukwaa ni la kwako. Piga simu au tuandikie kwenda WhatsApp namba alama ya kujumulisha 2760552594 na tutakupigia simu.
Mtangazaji wa habari zetu za Afrika Kusini mjini Johannesburg.
Hivyo unaweza kuwa mshirika kwenye matangazo yetu. Sio mazungumzo tu, ni fursa yako ya kuchangia maoni yako, kushirikiana na jumuiya ya wasikilizaji wanaotamani mtazamo wako. Tufuate kwenye mitandao ya kijamii. Tembelea tovuti yetu www.channelafrica.co.za na uwe tayari kushiriki na kuchangia maoni yako kwenye Channel Africa. Channel Africa, mtazamo wa Kiafrika.
Business News on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you and good afternoon. With your business update, I am Chanduk Oligege. The International Monetary Fund says Zimbabwe's economic growth is expected to rebound to a 6% rate this year, citing improving agricultural production, record high gold prices and robust remittances from its citizens who live abroad. Economic growth in the southern African nation, which is engaging with creditors to clear arrears and restructure its debt, fell to 1.7% last year, mainly due to a drought that cut crop output and hydroelectric production. The IMF says growth could, however, slow to 3.5% in the medium term due to persistently low confidence in the durability of economic stabilization plans and government reliance on local borrowing, which could squeeze private credit growth. The National Education, Health and Allied Workers Union of South Africa has accused the government of lack of accountability to the citizens, citing severe challenges plaguing the sector. The union says Special Investigating Units SIU interim report into tender fraud and corruption at Tembisa Hospital is just a tip of the iceberg. The report has laid bare the looting of about $115 million in state resources through corruption, fraud, maladministration, as well as collusion and bid rigging. Nehawu in Gauteng Province is set to hold a provincial day of action today, targeting the Provincial Department of Health. Union members will deliver a memorandum of demands to the member of the Executive Council of Health, the union's provincial secretary, Mzikayise Jonji.
We are calling for urgent action on the part of the department. If there's a strong government, syndicates cannot find space to do what they are doing. There's lack of accountability on the side of government in this regard.
The South African rand was little changed in early trade ahead of the release of a Purchasing Managers Index survey and as global markets monitor the impact of a U.S. government shutdown. The rand traded at 17.3125 against the dollar, about 0.2% weaker than its close on Thursday. Investors will look to the S&P Global August Whole Economy PMI for a window on business conditions in Africa's most industrialized economy. In North Africa, Egypt's central bank has cut its overnight interest rates by 100 basis points, its fourth reduction this year, saying inflationary pressures remain limited even after economic growth accelerated to 5% in the second quarter. The central bank's Monetary Policy Committee lowered the deposit rate to 21 from 22% and the lending rate to 22 from 23%. The median of 16 analysts polled had expected a 100 basis point reduction, arguing that slowing inflation gave the central bank room to ease. Japanese restaurants, bars and stores are running low on beer and other beverages from industry leader Asahi Group as the impact from a cyber attack entered a fifth day on Friday, with no resolution in sight. Known for its super dry beer, Nikka whiskey, as well as non-alcoholic beverages, Asahi suspended operations in Japan, including order processing, shipping and call center functions, after a cyber attack caused a system outage. It says the company began processing orders for some products by visiting customers in person and handwriting orders. Let's have a look at financial indicators at this hour. $1 in Nigeria is trading at 1,478 naira. In Botswana, 13 pula 20. Kenya, the dollar is 128 shilling 441. Zambia, 23 kwacha 78. BRICS countries, $1 in Brazil is at 5.33. Russia, 81 rubles 93. In India, 88 rupees 72. China, 71.13. South Africa, $1 is at 17 rand 23 cents. $1 is trading at 74 pence to the British pound, 85 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is at $3,861, platinum at $1,579 per ounce, the price of Brent crude oil at $64.80 a barrel. That is all for now. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chandu Lige.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
It is exactly 12:43 Central African time. Still coming up for you on Africa Update today. October is Mental Health Awareness Month, and we'll be focusing on mental health, joined by Barry Hilton, a South African comedian who has gone his own and undergone his own personal journey with mental health, from depression, dyslexia and ADHD. We'll be getting a first-person account of his experiences of living with certain mental health conditions. Also really keen to find out if you maybe have your own mental health conditions that you've been living with. You can find us on our various social media platforms. On X, we are at Channel Africa 1, as well as on Instagram. On Facebook, we are at Channel Africa. And you can also send us your comments as well as voice notes via WhatsApp. And our WhatsApp voice note number is +27 63 406 9126. So the question around mental health is not our key question for today, although I am still encouraging you to let us know how you are coping, what mental health means to you, if you or a loved one have a mental health situation, and how it is that you function adequately in a world that is so often filled with various pressures. So we'll look out for those comments as well. But today specifically, our Africa Update Ask question was really finding out from you what messages you would like to send to the people of Gaza, to those who've been detained by Israel's military and those who are en route. We're talking now with the spotlight on the global Sumud flotilla that has been intercepted by Israeli military. We've been covering that quite extensively today, hearing different perspectives of their well-being and what it is that the world's leaders and the citizens of the world can do in order to raise their voice, to use their power, and to have positive influence. You'll find us at Channel Africa 1, at Channel Africa, and at +27 63 406 9126.
Yo, listen up. Channel Africa is taking the digital game higher.
Check it out.
We are taking our digital platforms to the next level for you, our loyal listeners.
You know where we at, right?
New website, a fresh new app, and they're on fire. Anytime, anywhere listening, Channel Africa brings the African sound to you.
It's the bomb, yo.
Stay locked. The future is crystal clear with us. Your new way to experience Channel Africa is almost here. Africa, stand tall and get ready. Africa Update on Channel Africa.
It is exactly 12:46 Central African Time. Now, for many years, South African comedian Barry Hilton used humor to tackle issues of depression, dyslexia and ADHD. He joins a plethora of actors, billionaires, chefs, business people who didn't let learning challenges hamper their success. As October marks Mental Health Awareness Month, Hilton is now on a serious quest to tackle mental health issues. And to tell us more about his personal journey and his experiences with mental health, a very good afternoon to you, Barry. Welcome to Africa Update.
Thank you. Welcome. And thanks for contacting me. I'm actually just got off a plane. So I'm here at the M&B and in the middle of a plethora of people, but I'm having a cup of tea, and it's wonderful that you wanted to have me on your show.
Well, we're really glad that you've made the time to come and join us. And, one would often think that as a comedian, your job is to make people laugh. Your job is to, I guess, shine a spotlight on serious things, but in a way that kind of makes light of them. Talk to us about how you've navigated your own personal journey through, your mental health issues and what role your comedic career has played in this.
When I look back on who I am and what I am and all that stuff, I realized that comedy in my mental health since I was 8 years old, I've obviously been struggling. So comedy was my resilience tool. So every time something bad happened, I would revert to comedy, to humor. I didn't realize it at the time, but then I hated being an electrician. That was my job my father chose for me after I left school. And in 1983, I stopped. My father he wouldn't talk to me for 3 months because I got a job as a professional comedian. And I haven't looked back since. But every time I was on stage, I would always, in the back of my mind, thinking, I wonder if that was good enough. I wonder if I'm going to be good. I wonder if I'm going to be popular tomorrow, which in turn drove me to get better, stronger, and all that stuff. So it's been a blessing, but a weird blessing, if that makes sense. But the worst thing about it is mental health comes into effect after my shows. I did a huge show last night in Durban, and then I went to a hotel room and sat there and just couldn't sleep until 3:30 this morning, thinking to myself, I wonder if I'm still good enough. And then I'm thinking, but hold on, I am still good enough. But that's how my talk came about, actually, because I physically had a breakdown 5 years ago. And when I was in the clinic, I realized, wow, I'm not so bad. What is actually happening is people are not brave enough to come out and say, hey, I'm struggling here. It's not a man thing to do, And I find it quite strange when I actually talk to people at my shows, or my talks, not my shows. Men come up to me and they say, wow, that was very brave because I've been struggling from this. And I'll go to them, well, why don't you go see somebody? And their normal answer is, no, the people will think I'm crazy. And I said, exactly, you are crazy.
But let's do this. Let's try and demystify this a little bit, Barry. When we talk about mental health or mental illness, what exactly are we talking about, and how does it manifest itself? How does one know, what borders on quote unquote normality, or what then trickles into quote unquote abnormality, if one can use those type of phrases?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please.
Do you love your job?
Absolutely.
There we go. That's a thing. I ask people that, do you love your job? And they go like, there's a red flag straight away. That's all for me, because as a comedian, I love my job. I worked with double pneumonia. I worked the day my father died. I worked when my brother died. I was on stage when my mother died. And the show must go on. I went through a really, really, really bad divorce and I had to go on stage and talk about it. But the funny part about it was that after I was speaking about it, people, men and women, came to me after my comedy show, when I, talked about my divorce and that. They said to me, "Wow, I'm going through that same thing, but how come you can make it funny?" And my answer to them is also, well, you've got two choices. You can drown or you can learn to swim a bit better. So that's what I did. And so in a strange way, my need to succeed overcomes my fear of failure. So that's what pushed me on to create more and better and whatever. So, but everybody struggles. I mean, lots of people struggle. So if I can have a message out there, if you're not feeling yourself, if you wake up in the morning and think, oh, do I really have to go to work today? Maybe it's time to go and speak to somebody. Not to quit your job, but to go and say, hey, listen, I'm having a hard time with pressures of X, Y, Z. Can you help me? And most people, unfortunately, don't say anything until it's too late. And I tell people always, Robin Williams, Anthony Bourdain. I mean, who would have thought Robin Williams? Who would have thought that?
Yeah.
No. So,
and how do you get those support structures? How do you identify the places that are safe places that you can go to where you're not going to be judged, where you're not going to feel judged for feeling the way that you do?
Yeah, my wife took me to a doctor. I was having a screaming match at my wife. In fact, she was quiet. I was screaming in a restaurant, and she put the food down. She said, "Get your card. We're going now." She took me to a doctor, and it was my personal doctor. For my checkups and things like that. So, and that afternoon I was in the clinic. So, that was the beginning of my healing process, because I used to hide behind my ADHD, and I would hide behind my dyslexia and make jokes about it. But what I didn't realize was that was making me, the fact that I was hiding from it was making me more depressed. So now I own it. I got ADHD, big deal. That's how people should, don't worry about stuff so much.
Let's talk about definitions for a bit, Barry. When you talk about dyslexia and we talk about ADHD, what exactly does that look like? I think we've spoken about the depression and covered that, quite a bit. But dyslexia and ADHD, what exactly are they, and what are the symptoms?
For me, my personal one is I read the wrong way around. I'll look at something and it'll say something in my mind, and I will, what? And then I'll look at it again and think, oh no, hold on a second. That goes there and that goes there. So I have a hard time distinguishing letters. So I get, there's a joke I say about it. I say, I'm so dyslexic, the mat on my front door says Malcolm. It doesn't say welcome. So, but I make a joke about it. So that's what happens when you got dyslexia. I'm thinking for myself. I'm not a doctor, so I can't tell you. And ADHD is the lack of concentration skills. I could never concentrate in school long enough, except for maths and science. I was for some obscure reason that grabbed my attention. But history, I was please, I couldn't deal with it. So then I became the class clown, and then I became the hated boy in the class from the teachers because I was disrupting the class. But I wasn't doing it on purpose. I have this condition called ADHD. I can't keep concentration. I'm surprised I'm still talking to
you. As you're speaking, Barry, it just dawns on me that it just means that one is gifted in other areas. Because, nobody really is 100% at everything. And so if you're not going to be gifted in, this reading and writing and history and all of those things, but you're gifted in, science and more technical issues, it just means that one is more inclined towards that. And I wonder if our education system makes room for one to play to their strengths, as opposed to trying to be what you are not innately, quote unquote.
Well, it may be now, but when I was in school, no. Because I even used to make the teachers laugh, but the teachers wouldn't laugh out loud. I could see them when I would make these commitment, stuff. And those teachers those days, and it wasn't, they should have said to my parents, listen, you need to put this guy in a art school. That's what, but we didn't. Those days, shut up, open a book, read it. I mean, one day, you're quite young, so when I was in school, it was just every day of our lives, we learned about Jan van Riebeeck. Okay? You remember him?
Oh, yeah. Who cannot remember what was drilled into us in history?
The teacher one day said to me, Hilton, and they always used to ask me, so maybe it was because they wanted the response. He said to me, Hilton, what did Jan van Riebeeck eventually turn up as? And I said to him, a tin of Rick coffee.
Well, look, on that note, our time is completely up, but I cannot let you go. I know I can't let you go without asking for some pointers that you can give to our listeners, just regarding around mental health, coping, and thriving and succeeding.
It takes a man to admit there's something wrong. It doesn't take. If you don't admit to somebody, hey, I'm struggling here, then you have to do that. You have to grasp that. Speak to your friends, speak to your loved ones, go to a doctor. You must do it. Do not ignore it, because most of the times, by the time you realize, I'm in trouble, it's too late. So please, if you have a problem out there, address somebody. Go speak to your neighbor if you must do. Listen, I'm having a hard time here, but there's nothing wrong with being open and having a hard time. And you'll be surprised if you tell somebody, I'm really struggling with this, they are most of the time sympathetic and say, what can I do?
Right.
So there we go.
Barry Hilton, thank you so much. You've been absolutely awesome. Great chatting to you.
Fabulous chatting to you too.
Thank you so much.
You have a great day.
Have a good one. Thanks. That's Barry Hilton, a South African comedian, in his journey with depression, anxiety, dyslexia, and ADHD. And I love what he says at the end. Just admit that you're struggling. Admit that, look, I'm not coping right now. And that is the first point of departure. And talk to somebody. Tell someone, look, I think I need some help. I've got a problem with this. I've got a problem with that. But don't allow yourself to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders, because the burden is so much heavier when you're trying to carry it on your own. So that is how we come to the end of Africa Update for today. Africa, thank you so much. You've been absolutely amazing. Thank you to our team, our producer Tracy Boomgard, technical operator Ndando Lutuli, and on social media, Sfiso Hlope and Talent Butelezi. I'm Tami Ngubeni, sitting in for Lulu Gabu this afternoon. It's gone exactly 1 minute to 1 p.m.